Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of our weekly coaching webinar. Today, I'm going to do an actual demo walkthrough of our finance suite. I want to walk through, show you what you need to know, kind of through the steps, sub-steps, some things we've added, new sources we've added, new lending programs have been added. And I realized that, man, I haven't sat and actually done a walkthrough of our finance suite in quite some time. So I'm actually going to come in here and go through this today, step by step, walk through, answer any questions you have along the way, introduce you to a lot of the changes that have taken place, show you some of the new additions, and we'll go from there. So I'm not going to use this opportunity today to go through all of our partner resources. The reality is that's a whole other webinar by itself, and I will do that in the weeks to come, more than likely, to go back through our partner resources, look at executive resources, look at our resource library, look at a lot of other things in our back office as well that you have as tools and resources that you can use to be able to market business credit financing. But today, I want to start with the finance suite. I want to start with the business finance suite, the actual product that you are selling to customers. I want to talk about the finance my business section. I want to talk about the build my business credit section. And I also want to talk a little bit more about biz equity, where you can come in and do business valuations. The information I want to talk about today is really going to help you just be able to present this to your customers, talk about features, talk about benefits. It's going to help you be able to navigate the system to be able to get the most credit financing for your business, as well as being able to help your customers. So let's start right here with Build My Business Credit or a Business Credit Builder. You've got a couple options here, the Business Credit Builder or the Report Dashboard. We're going to start right here in the Business Credit Builder. So we talk a lot about this nowadays. As a matter of fact, I've changed the conversation, if you're ever hearing me talk out there online, to what I talk about. I used to talk a lot about the steps of building business credit. The problem is that in talking about this so much, I still see a lot of people that think that they're able to successfully do this on their own. And a lot of them fail. Most of them fail. As a matter of fact, we have a Get Business Credit group on Facebook that has, I don't know, going on, nearly 30,000 people in it. And most of that group are people that are still completely perplexed and confused about how to build business credit. They still think they can try to tackle this on their own. So I've changed a lot of the conversation. Nowadays, I talk more about fundability than I do anything. And fundability is really a lot of step one, and then also some other steps here that we're going to look at, including step 4, where it really has to do with, how fundable your business is. So when you're talking to business owners, as I do, I like to point out that there's really a few things that we're going to help you with. Mainly, we help you get capital for your business, and there's a few ways we do it. We help you improve your fundability. These are the things that lenders and credit issuers look at to determine if you should be approved for credit financing. The second thing that we also do is we help you build business credit for your EIN that's not linked to your social. And the third thing we do is help you access all legitimate forms of financing in one place. Now, that rolls off my tongue pretty smooth because I say it all the time. So there's one lesson in that as well, is the more you talk about these things, the more live streams you do, the more webinars you do, the more of these type of things, the more comfortable that you become. Now, ironically, you gain a couple benefits. First of all, the more you talk about this, the more live streams, the more webinars, the more podcasts you do, then for one, you're actually becoming more and more and more familiar with your content. And I talk about that oftentimes as I'm getting ready to go into a podcast interview or a radio interview or go on for a TV interview or go on the stage. I'm still a little nervous when I walk into those situations, but not really because I know my content. So for the example, I was at an event the other day, and I found out at the very last minute, less than 5 minutes before I went on, that there was no PowerPoint being used, that I had to basically just go off the cuff. Well, for a lot of you, that would be an issue. For me, it's not, because I can easily talk for 45 minutes to an hour about the content because I know it so much. So something to be said in that. Going through these things, teaching these things, reviewing these things regularly becomes very important. And in partner resources, if you look at the resource library, especially if you're executive, you have access to more content than you're ever going to need. I do a webinar every single week or a YouTube live. You have access to those PowerPoints weeks before I have access to those PowerPoints. So the content, the hardest part of it is there. The part that you want to do is get this content out in the world. Whether you're doing Facebook Live, whether you're doing Instagram Live, whether you do YouTube Live, whether you're putting content on YouTube channels, putting content on social channels, sharing it on your personal social pages, producing the content's one thing, and then putting it out there is another. And in doing so, you're going to become very familiar with this as well. But again, in a lot of my teachings, I'm really talking about fundability now. That's mostly what I talk about. If you look at the content I put out and distribute, I would say probably 60% of it now is all about fundability. And only 40% of it is about how to get business credit and financing. So I've really changed this conversation to fundability, and here's why. Because fundability itself has become extremely confusing, okay? And we make it confusing. We let people know, look, here's the deal. If you're trying to do this on your own, it's very difficult to do on your own. Okay, the reality is you're probably going to get denied for credit financing, or if you get approved, you're going to pay too high of a rate or get too little amount of money because your fundability is not in check. And I use this graphic that now I need to soon get into your assets in your back office, and I'm going to, as soon as I'm done with this webinar, get this fundability diagram or a graphic probably put up there for you in the back office. But you can see here that this is how we really show it and how I show it in webinars. There's over 125 factors that tie into how fundable your business is. And one of the things we do here at Credit Suite is we help make sure that your business is set up where it is fundable. We dive into these fundability factors through the Business Finance Suite to see how fundable your business is. So that's a lot of what step one is. So step one, a lot of the basics haven't changed here. We're going to be adding more fundability factors in the months to come. When I'm doing a demo of the Finance Suite, I always want to show customers a few things. One, they can see that it's all video. It's very simple to navigate through the steps. They can navigate through the steps through very short videos, 4-minute video here, 50-second video here. If they don't like videos, they can easily read the transcriptions of the videos right here. And then in each step, all they have to do is enter a little bit of information and move on. So for example, all that's needed here is just the business name to save and continue. Now they can also access resources that they may need as well. So if they're setting up their business name here in step one, then they're going to want to access their Secretary of State to make sure that that name is actually available. And every Secretary of State we access right here. They're going to want to view restricted industries to see if they're in a high risk or restricted industry. That makes it very difficult to be able to get the credit and financing that they need, and they could do this right here as well. They can also access a resource such as My Corporation to actually come through and set up their business that they want additional support to do so. I always, in this first step, show right here that they could easily come in and choose between English and Spanish, and I show that everything here changes from English to Spanish once they actually do so. So I make sure that when I'm doing a demo walkthrough and showing customers the suite, they see that that's exactly how it works. Now, I then move through. When I'm doing a demo, I don't show all these sub steps, but for this purpose of this conversation today, I am going to dive into a lot of these because it's not bad practice for me because I rarely go through all the steps. So you can see here in step 1.2 that we're setting up the business address. They're entering all this information, watching the video to the end to unlock that. And that's because we need them to understand the importance of not using UPS addresses, not using PO box addresses, that they're using a business address that's congruent with the information that they're putting online. Okay, if they're setting up a virtual address, we put multiple virtual address sources here. We prefer Alliance, but we found that giving people options makes the most sense. So we do virtual address. This is a great topic to teach about as well. My Facebook Live today was all about virtual addresses. Now, I also use this as an opportunity to teach business owners how they can succeed with building business credit through the Finance Suite. And what I tell business owners when I'm doing a demo is, hey, look, you know, you're busy. We know that. So because you're so busy, you may only have 5 minutes to dedicate to this. And that's the best thing. You don't want to put off building your business credit because it takes too much time. So what we did was break it down into very simple sub steps so you can have a little win every day as you progress towards your goal. So for example, to set up your business name or enter your business name in 1.1 was pretty simple. That could actually, if you already have your business name set up, could take seconds to do. If you don't have your business set up and you need to go to the Secretary of State and do it, well, then you're able to do that in 5 to 15 minutes following the steps in 1.1. The same here in step 1.2. Hey, maybe you don't really have a big physical address. Well, in 1 minute, you're going to realize how to find a solution with a virtual address, and you're able to come right here and get set up in less than 10 minutes with a virtual address solution. So most of these steps can be navigated through in seconds, or sometimes as much as 5 to 15 minutes, depending on if they haven't done any of that step before. So if you haven't set up your business name, well, that could take longer than 5 to 15 minutes because you're going to have to brainstorm for a business name, make sure the URL is available. But once you have the business name chosen, you can come through, make sure it's available in the Secretary of State, step 1.1. You can make sure it's not a restricted high-risk industry. in 1.1. You could even set it up in step 1.1 as well in less than 10 to 15 minutes. So again, these steps can take seconds or minutes. That's why we bring them into sub-steps. As we jump into step 1.3, we set up an EIN number. That's very important. Look, you could be a sole proprietor and not have an EIN number. But the problem is that you don't look credible with places like the IRS. It becomes very important that you want to look credible. So in order to do so, in step 1.3, you're actually getting that EIN number for free from the IRS. Now, I will admit, I happen to know some things about this. I teach about it all the time. I have almost been scammed here myself. Okay, what happened was actually, you know what? I take that back. I have been scammed here by this myself, and I'm a pretty knowledgeable guy. This happened many years ago when I went to set up an EIN. I flew through the process thinking I knew what I was doing. I got to the end and they actually asked for a credit card. I supplied the credit card and I was charged. I then quickly realized that I was not at irs.gov, that I went to a website that makes it look like they're the IRS when they're not. And the actual true story is I called the company to get a refund. And while I was on the phone with him getting a refund, I went to the right website, irs.gov, and got my EIN while I was on the phone with him getting that refund of the EIN I just paid for. So I tell people about this all the time. I don't tell people my real story all the time. It's kind of embarrassing. I do talk about it once in a while publicly, but that is the reality, is that they need to set up that entity and get the EIN number in step 1.4, which is what they're doing. And in that step, it helps them navigate through, so they're going to the right site and not actually going through and getting a source where it's paid. Here at 1.3, we're just setting up the actual entity, the industry type, the entity type, and the date incorporated. And you can see here the actual industries. Now, what's nice about this is they're choosing industries that are consistent with their NAICS code. Okay, so they're actually selecting things that are consistent with the NAICS code that they're going to use for their business. Now, SIC codes and NAICS codes, which are all codes that are used to identify the industry or the sector of business that you're in, are very important. And those are going to be things in the months to come you're going to see us adding into the finance suite, talking about SIC codes, talking about NAICS codes, the importance of those, and getting those added in here. Okay, so those will be some things. But in step 1.3, we're talking about entity. 1.4, we're talking about EIN setup, which again is important because it helps them avoid getting charged by going to a place like I did that looks like the IRS and they're not. Phone numbers, fax numbers, 411 listings. Man, is this stuff very, 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 very important. Okay, very few people do this correctly. Most people are not getting toll-free numbers. They're not listing it with 411, nor do they know how to list their phone number with 411. I just did a YouTube live on fundability, and I had, I don't know, 25% of the questions were all about this. Do I need a toll-free number? I did this incorrectly. What do I do now? How do I get my number listed with 411, et cetera, et cetera? So this step is very important because there's a lot of things to make sure the phone number is set up where you're actual fundable. You have to get a phone number. You have to get a toll-free number. You need to get it listed with 411. You should have a fax number. In this step, in the videos, we're walking through all that. We're getting all the necessary information. And we're providing good solutions for actual phone providers as well, including Freedom Voice, which is my favorite, by the way. When I actually went through and set up a new business that I started a little while ago, a land investing business that I really enjoy working on, then that I actually used Freedom Voice for that. And I loved Freedom Voice. And the interesting thing is I didn't know where to go to get my phone. So I actually went into our finance suite to see who we recommend. I saw Freedom Voice. I tried Ring Central, and Ring Central annoyed me. I didn't like the checkout process with Ring Central. They show you a price, but it's really only if you pay an annual price, and you have to go through several different levers you have to pull to even see the real charge. And I don't like that. I feel like it's a bait and switch. So I ended up trying Freedom Voice and loved them. And again, this is why we provide options, because business owners need to know that they have options here of which source service they're going to use. We found that your clients prefer options, which is why we always provide options. So we're setting up the phone number 411 EIN there. And in step 1.6, we're talking about websites, we're talking about emails, we're talking about all the things that become important for them to be able to do so. We've got SEO services, we've got other sources here. We've even got Jet Digital Marketing, the ability to, I think they're actually reporting now with Credit Safe. So people could build business credit while getting the help that they need. And by the way, that's a solution source that we use as well. That we tested them for years and had really good success, which is why We put them on there, Google Apps, Squarespace, all the resources that they need to set those things up if they don't have them set up. In step 1.7, 1.8, and 1.9, we're talking about business licenses, bank accounts, merchant accounts, why they're important. We're helping them go through and get solutions there as well. And then we do a quick summary in step 1.10 or 1.10. And again, this is very important because that really is fundability. Fundability becomes very important, and I talk a lot about that, as I mentioned, because this is something people can't duplicate. They don't know 125 factors that tie in to their actual fundability, which is why it's so important that we go through that with them in step 1. Step 2, we're getting set up with the reporting agencies. I like to tell people why this is important. I don't know if you know this or not, but Experian and Equifax will create a failing business credit score for you if they know you exist and if you have no credit established. So we've got to help them come in. We've got to help them get set up with the reporting agencies. Now in this step 1.2.1, we're talking about getting their DUNS number set up. Now you have to be careful here. Okay, I've had some people whine a little and complain a little because they don't like the way that I word this, and that's okay. I talk and have literally tens and tens of thousands of people, probably hundreds of thousands of people that follow my training. So if one here and there doesn't like it, I'm okay with that. But I'll tell you what I say. If you go to Dun & Bradstreet directly, there's oftentimes going to try to charge you to get your DUNS number and activate your credit profile. If you get on the phone with them, they're going to tell you you really should pay to get your DUNS number expedited, and you should pay to get your credit profile. Now, listen, I will tell you, I'm going to take some personal credit for this. I talked about Dun & Bradstreet's shady tactics for a long, long time. And then I've seen a change with them. They no longer now try to convince people they have to pay for the DUNS number. And I think I'm going to take a little credit for that because I think they got a lot of blowback, and I've heard a lot of things and rumblings within Dun & Bradstreet that they had problems with all these things that we kept talking about that it was a scam and that Dun & Bradstreet was trying to charge them for a DUNS number when it's for free and they don't need to pay for it. Okay, so I think that they changed that, and a lot of their phone practices now, as a result of that bad press they got, they're not as much pushing people to pay for a DUNS number like they once did. Now they'll change the wording to the activation of the credit profile, meaning, look, you really should pay us for Credit Builder because Credit Builder, we're going to get your DUNS number, we're going to get expedited, and we are also going to activate your credit profile. I'll talk about how to get it activated in a later step. But in this step, we help them avoid that cost. They never need to speak to Dun & Bradstreet. They never need to get their DUNS number with Dun & Bradstreet. All they need to do is they need to come in and they need to actually get their DUNS number set up. Okay, and then once they set up their actual DUNS number, they can do that here in the Finance Suite. They never need to actually pay for that. Now, they could go to Dun & Bradstreet and get their DUNS number without paying, but Dun & Bradstreet's going to email and call them and try to sell them. Okay, and what we do is we help them in this step, and with the help of our advisors, understand they don't need to do that. That they can actually get their DUNS number for free. We even help them update information on their Dun & Bradstreet credit report that might not be accurate here with iUpdate. We do that in that step. Now in step 2.2, we help them do a free search with Experian to see if they're set up with Experian now or if they're not. And we also help them get set up with Experian, including getting their BIN number. Their BIN number is a business identification number, which is similar to the DUNS number from Dun & Bradstreet, except this one's unique from Experian. And in this step, we help them set up their credit report with Experian, and we help them get that BIN number activated and assigned to them as well. And of course, in step 2.3, we help them get set up with Equifax. In my opinion, Equifax is the most important of the 3 reporting agencies, and the reason for that is that so few people actually report to them. Okay, and as a result of that, they're actually able to come in here and they're able to get set up with Equifax when they typically can't because it's a struggle to do so. And we're helping them get everything they need to be able to start building business credit with Equifax as well. And then we also come in and we talk about how to fix business credit. Now, I just had somebody actually solicit me on LinkedIn. As a matter of fact, I'm going to type that in to follow up with him just the other day about having a lot of customers that need help or improvement on their Experian and how to fix their business credit reports. And I said, yeah, that's absolutely something we do. So we do a lot with building business credit and we do a little with fixing business credit. The reason I say we do a little with fixing business credit is the reality is most people that think they need their business credit fixed don't actually need so. The problem is that 97% of trade vendors don't report to the business credit reporting agencies. So a lot of people think that they've paid their vendors late and that their business credit is damaged. But what we find is most of those vendors never reported to the business credit reporting agencies anyways. So as a result of that, they don't have damaged business credit. But when they do have damaged business credit, we help them correct that with Dun & Bradstreet, Equifax, Experian. Okay, we help them update their credit reports for all three of these. A question that I commonly get: how do I update my credit reports with Equifax, Experian, and Dun & Bradstreet? And we do that right here in step 2.4 as well. Now in step 3, we start building initial business credit. Man, we've done a lot of work in this section over the years, and here's why. Because in the beginning, what happened was we just had a lot of partners and a lot of customers complain that they couldn't find really sources they could really use that were sold things that they really needed to buy to build their business credit. So we have worked, and we continue to work diligently to help vendors report. And I'll be honest with you, we could have a lot more vendors in here, and there's a reason we don't, because a lot of their customer service sucks. It's just, there's no other way to say it. We've added SEO service, we've added website building services, we've added marketing services in here. We helped these companies get the ability to report to the business credit reporting agencies. But the problem is, when people try to use them, they would run into issues on their websites, and then they would try to call, and the customer service was non-existent. And then our team was just dealing with this relentless amount of complaints. So it's still very hard for us to either find vendors that report or help vendors get the ability to report, and then have those vendors actually deliver good service. So an example of that is the T-shirt Club. This is a company that we found in one of our Facebook groups. I mean, they make T-shirts. Who doesn't need T-shirts? And we got them the ability to report to the reporting agencies that all was well. And then we started sending them a ton of people that were interested in getting T-shirts done and getting a vendor credit account at the same time. And the problem we ran into, as you might imagine, is that they didn't call people back. The customer service was horrible. They couldn't handle a larger volume of customers. So then the complaints rolled into our team, and then we removed them from our system, because we're not going to recommend companies that make you and us look bad, right? So it's still a hard time for us to find vendors that deliver products and services you and our customers want, and then at the same time find them that actually deliver a good service and that deliver the product and deliver good customer service as well. So we continue to fight that fight and add a lot more sources every day. One of the newest ones here is Marathon. Okay, so you can actually now come in here and get Marathon to actually start building business credit. And again, as you already know, what's nice about the Finance Suite is we tell you all the ones you're pre-qualified for, so you're not applying for credit you can't get. We're giving you a description of the product and service, the instructions to get approved, okay, and then everything you're going to need to actually qualify, including the terms on that actual account, okay? So you can see here that you need an entity in good standing, an EIN number, a business address matching everywhere, which is why we talk about that fundability, the DUNS number, which we've already done at this point, a license if you need it, a business bank account, and they can give you a $500 deposit instead of using a PG if you're less than a year. So we've even given them a solution if they're open less than a year on what they can actually do to get that account with no personal guarantee. And Marathon's a pretty major player. So our data team continues to have a lot of wins adding these kind of sources in there. Uline, which I love. I mean, they're just a good one to work with because they sell all kinds of shipping supplies. A WEX Fleet Card, which is fairly new addition to our actual vendor accounts. And again, something that we've come in and we're even giving more and more solutions now like these where they can put a few $100 down or more as a deposit and get around that personal guarantee, or they can start off with a personal guarantee in the beginning. They kind of have those choices. Granger, which we've had around for a while, Strategic Network Solutions. People Ready is one of the newer sources that have been added not too long ago as well, and it's a place where people can come in and get all kinds of labor. I don't know if People Ready changed from Labor Ready or not. We used to have Labor Ready, and I think they stopped reporting, so we added People Ready, or maybe the company changed. I'm not sure about that. Supply Works, Quill, Summa Office Supplies. Some of these are new. Again, from my perspective, these are the ones that I haven't really seen. I haven't really seen Summa Office Supplies. I haven't seen Wilmar added in there either. And Barnett is one I've seen, but not too long ago. So Hardware Express, Global Voice Direct. I love Global Voice Direct because you can set up phone lines and get business credit building as well. Behalf, you can accept payments from customers and be able to get like a credit line and build business credit as well. Office supplies, of course, we can all benefit from office supplies. Home Pro, Barnett, there's all kinds of things that you can get from there as well. And here at Wilmar, you can get a lot of different things here. Okay, so we can look at Wilmar, we're bringing your money or more of what you need to stay ahead in a highly competitive industry. Okay, now part of the Home Depot family of quality brands, we're our nation's largest distributor of maintenance supplies exclusively for apartment housing with a dedicated focus on providing quality products and improvement solutions. So again, a lot of these companies that now offer a lot of different kinds of products and services that we've never had before in the vendor space. And we continue to add and we continue to subtract. If their customer service sucks, then we subtract them. We pull them out of here, even if we know they report. And T-shirt Club's a perfect example. We know T-shirt Club reports, but we do not promote them because the customer service is horrible. Okay, and so as a result of that, the ones that are on here are ones that have good customer service, offer products and services the customer really need, and it's simpler than ever before to get 5 that somebody needs. I mean, to get a U-line, to come in and get a Quill, to get a Granger, to get a Summa office supplies, to get a Barnett or a Wilmar, and get just about anything you need from those sources is easy, let alone phone service, hardware, credit lines, and many other things. So just a lot of vendor solutions here. We're going to continue to add even more. Now, you never should forget to tell your customers that there's 2 different ways they can add initial business credit accounts to their business credit reports. They can either come here and use vendors, or they can go to the Finance My Business section and use the unsecured credit lines, the unsecured business financing. I'll show you that a little bit later. I should say there's a third way to do it, which is to use Dun & Bradstreet's Credit Builder, but I'm telling you that never ends well. I had a guy on my YouTube live today, and he described the problem I commonly hear. He said, I paid Dun & Bradstreet $1,200 to add accounts to my credit report, and then I went to add accounts, and the first thing they told me is those accounts wouldn't work because it was credit cards, bank credit, and revolve or credit cards and bank credit. I said, you're right. Here's the stuff you can add to Dun & Bradstreet. You can't add your phone. You can't add your electric. You can't add your gas or your water or any kind of utilities for that matter. You can't add your rent payments. You can't add your lease payments. You can't add credit card payments. You can't add debit payments. You can't add any bank account or bank cards type of cards that are backed by banks, as well as you can't add anything they don't want to add or anything that's already reporting to them. So if you really think about what you pay every month, what else do you pay that you can add? There's not a lot of things you can add, and this is why we really don't recommend Dun & Bradstreet's Credit Builder. We've tried to work with Dun & Bradstreet. We've tried to find a way to make their product work, but it's so overpriced and so difficult to add things and so few things you can add that we don't even count that as an option anymore to add initial business credit. You're either using vendors or you're using unsecured business financing here in the Finance My Business section of the Finance Suite. And the next, it comes time to monitoring business credit reports. Some significant changes here. Okay, it's always been that you can monitor business credit with Dun & Bradstreet, Experian, and Equifax. Now, we currently integrate with NAV so they can actually come in and monitor business credit with Dun & Bradstreet or Experian through our actual NAV integration. And I'll maybe pull that up for you here. Where's my Firefox? I'll pull that up in another browser to show you that. So again, we come in here and we help with addicts actually getting business credit monitoring with NAV or with Dun & Bradstreet Direct if they want to do that. We do the same thing with Experian and Equifax as well. Now, NAV is getting ready to roll out the product that will be available to you and all of our customers where they can access Equifax from those credit reports as well. We are waiting on that. The great news is we are the largest affiliate that NAV has when it comes to actually helping people get business credit reports. So as a result of that, we have early access to those products. They roll them out, do a minor test, and we have access. So it won't be long before we're able to access Equifax on those NAV reports. But for now, we help them access Equifax here. We also help them come in and add Dun & Bradstreet and Experian as well. So the 2 big things we've added here, though, are LexisNexis, and we've also added in ChexSystems as well. So these are 2 brand new things. Now to go back here real quick, if you haven't seen the credit reports with the Finance Suite itself that are available through our NAV integration, I'll pull those up for you here probably right now. If I can pull that up, I'll kind of show you what those look like. Here are those reports. So this is actually our integration with NAV. I'm logged into another Finance Suite where I have this available, and you can see here that they can actually access their Dun & Bradstreet and Experian reports, trade lines, all kinds of information about what their score means, public filings. They can get all this kind of information. They can get a look at all the accounts. They can actually get set up alerts here with Equifax or with Experian, Dun & Bradstreet, and they can do exactly the same thing with their Experian Equifax or their Experian integration as well. Okay, so they can do all that right here from our nav integration, and they're able to do that right here in step 4. Now, again, we now teach them what LexisNexis is, how LexisNexis works, and we help them access their LexisNexis credit report and visit LexisNexis's credit or a website right here to get a copy of those reports. This is something very big, and later this year we'll be rolling out a LexisNexis integration where it ties into the fundability score. And how it works is this: our fundability score goes into LexisNexis and it pulls all the LexisNexis data, and then it compares all the information they entered in step 1 here to the LexisNexis data, and then it's going to tell them discrepancies. It's going to tell them that the data that the lenders are looking at doesn't match what they're actually putting in there. So there's a lot of data that we're able to get from LexisNexis and share this with business owners to be able to make sure that they get those things corrected, so then they have the best chance of getting approved for credit financing. Let me give you 2 real examples of why this is important. I'm going to give you 3 real examples of why this is important. Okay, most people don't know this, but when you go to dispute a judgment or a public record such as a bankruptcy, or we'll just use those judgments and judgments and bankruptcies from TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, the consumer credit reporting agencies. When you dispute with them, they verify the dispute through LexisNexis. So they're actually looking at LexisNexis data to verify that dispute. So for example, if you have a judgment on your credit report with TransUnion, you go to dispute it, and TransUnion comes back and says it's verified. Well, what you should do is go to LexisNexis, get your LexisNexis credit report. You'll see the judgment on there, dispute with LexisNexis, remove it from LexisNexis, then go to TransUnion and redispute it again. And what you'll typically find is that item gets deleted from the credit report because TransUnion's verifying it with LexisNexis. Once LexisNexis has deleted it, then it comes off your consumer credit report. A lot of people don't know that. It's one of the reasons that LexisNexis is actually so important, that you got to make sure that you get that addressed. Now, the other thing, and 2 real examples of why this matters, is when Credit Suite, when we went in to get an SBA loan last year, so we went and got an SBA loan for like $325,000. And once we actually did this, or once we went in to do this, we ran into 2 problems that came from LexisNexis. The first is LexisNexis said that I had 2 judgments that I did not have. They were not accurate whatsoever. Okay, and first of all, that's very difficult to prove a negative. It's very difficult to prove you don't have something you don't have. But I went to the courts and I had them prove, print anything I had in public records, and they provided me all this documentation I could get for me to go to the bank and say, look, these are not true. I don't know what you want me to say. Like, here's all the information from the courthouse. Here's the information from public records. You can verify it this way by clicking on this link and looking at the county I live in and verifying that these are bogus. And they did remove those judgments as a requirement. Now, without that, they were making me pay those judgments off. So the requirement was for me to pay off $80,000 worth of judgments that weren't even mine. So I had to go prove that, and I got around that stipulation, but I would have had to pay off $80,000 in order to actually get that loan, but I didn't have to pay that because that wasn't mine, because that was never actually mine to begin with. It wasn't true. And so I had to get it deleted. But you can imagine that slowed down the process by over a month, that I had to jump through these hoops to be able to prove a negative because I didn't have the judgments they claimed I had. A second problem with LexisNexis is they have, they ask the same question to everybody asks when you get a loan with SBA. They say, do you have any misdemeanors? Do you have any felonies? And of course I put no, because I'm a pretty straight shooter. I don't really get in any trouble besides get a heck of a lot of speeding tickets. But outside of that, I'm a pretty straight shooter. And they came back and said, sorry, you've actually got 2 misdemeanors that you have to account for. And it was interesting for me because I don't even remember it. I didn't even know what they were talking about. I literally had to pay and pull a personal background check on myself to even be able to know what they were actually coming in here and discussing. And so it was very interesting because I had to actually come in, pull a personal background check. I remembered those, and both of them happened like I was, 20 years old, and it was like motorcycles, popping wheelies and doing crazy stuff like that, where I ended up getting like in misdemeanors for, I think, reckless driving. I don't even remember what it was for, but it was something to do with that. It had something to do with motorcycles and popping wheelies and things I was not supposed to be doing at the time. But again, 20-year-old, 21-year-old motorcycle happens. But I almost lost the loan. I had to actually go in and I had to write a whole letter of, 1, what those misdemeanors were, and 2, why I quote unquote lied to them about them. and saying, I don't even remember these things. Like I didn't even remember these things that happened. So again, then we had to go into LexisNexis and we disputed this stuff. But here's what's interesting. Once I cleaned up my LexisNexis, once I removed the companies that I was affiliated with in the consumer credit industry. So I kept trying to get things like Experian commercial credit report access and merchant accounts. They kept saying I was in credit repair. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not in consumer credit repair. I work with commercial, not consumer credit. But they were pulling my LexisNexis credit report and seeing an old email address and an old company affiliation with consumer credit. So when I went in and started disputing LexisNexis and cleaned all this stuff up, we've never had a problem since. None of these issues has come up. Banks that we were once denied with when we tried to get approved for funding and we couldn't figure out why for Credit Suite to finance through banks, we got approved with. One that we've been approved with was denied for years and they wouldn't tell us why. We cleaned up LexisNexis, they approved us automatically. We haven't had a problem with credit cards. We haven't had a problem with financing. We haven't had a problem with merchant accounts. All these barriers we ran into, they were all completely removed and obliterated once we accessed LexisNexis. Now, if you're not familiar with LexisNexis, here's a look at the things that are on your LexisNexis credit report so you know if I can get this thing to actually do what I need it to do. I can't get it to click. There you go. Here's some things that are on your LexisNexis credit report. Every home you've ever owned, the value of those homes, the sales prices, the building materials of the home, the HOA information, how many bedrooms, baths, the roofing materials, the AC units, the deeds and mortgages, the title companies that you use to close those loans, the interest rates you paid, the loan amounts, the terms, the loan types, every phone number and email address since you were born that you've ever had is there, every license you've ever possessed, including firearms, boating, mortgage, pilot, any others, including violations against those. All your traffic tickets, including speeding tickets, felonies, misdemeanors, sex offender records, all the aliases you've ever had, marriage and divorce records, every vehicle you've ever owned, including VIN number, every insurance policy you've ever had, not just who it was with, but all the details of those policies, including all of your coverage amounts are on there. Every business you've ever been associated with, a family member, including your children, loans, leases, aircraft and boat owner records, public records, including bankruptcies, judgments, lawsuits, liens, all of your education information, including the degrees you have, the schools you've attended, the dates you attended those schools are on there, your military records, your online marketing records from sources you've registered to receive correspondence from, short-term credit offer requests. And I often say what I'm teaching on this, as you can see, I just ran out of room on the slide to put more. My LexisNexis credit report is nearly 400 pages, 400. So I will show you, if I ever showed you and you see me on a webinar, it is the equivalent of a book. And this is the root of all evil. This is where a lot of sources get their data from. So we now help them access their LexisNexis credit reports, and we'll walk them through the dispute process as well. And we also come in through ChexSystems, and we now help them access their ChexSystems credit report. And we also help them access their ChexSystems credit score as well through this section. So a lot of people don't realize that you have a credit report and a credit score with how you manage your bank accounts. It's available through ChexSystems, and through the finance suite, we now help them get their ChexSystems credit report and their ChexSystems credit score because it all ties into fundability. Okay, that's what it all comes down to. It all comes down to how fundable your business is. It all comes down to accessing information lenders and credit issuers don't know about. Now, Danny Garcia is here and says, I updated my personal LexisNexis 2 years ago. Is there a separate LexisNexis for my business? There is not at all. There's not. So if you have actually come in and if you've come in and actually updated LexisNexis personally, that is all that's out there. But your LexisNexis credit report will show every business you've been associated with and all of your business email addresses and phone numbers that you've been linked to through your business as well. So your personal does have overlap here, okay? But there's only one LexisNexis credit report, but it does include a lot of business information. Daniel, great information or great question on that. So the system now comes in and helps them get and clean up ChexSystems and LexisNexis credit report. Step 5, building business credit. We keep adding a lot of sources here. Sunbelt Rentals, Crown Office Supplies is brand new. I think they were just added last week. Advanced Auto Parts, Meyer, Luke Oil, United Rentals. A lot of these are new. Global Fleet, Exxon, Office Depot, Home Depot, and on and on and on. And again, of course, every source has the actual places they report to, what's needed to get approved, and a lot of different information to make it just easy for everybody to come in and actually get approved for these sources. So guys, the goal here is to add 50 new sources. I think Jan's goal is by mid-year to add 50 new sources, and that's her big rock. We call them big rocks that we're trying to move, okay? So that being said, we are adding a lot of sources and continue to add a lot of sources in here to help people build business credit, the same as we get into tier 3 credit, the same as we get into tier 4 credit as well. So we come in here and you're able to see, oh, there's that t-shirts club. They're still on here, but they're not here as a vendor because, again, we had all kinds of issues with them initially reported and customer service. Conoco, Sinclair, Speedway, BP, Shell, and many, 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 many more. Okay, and then we get into the final tier here. Now, there's some other things that we had added that we thought was pretty important here in tier 4. So a lot of tier 4 here, okay, all comes down to being able to access a lot of other sources and being able to get sources that don't report to the reporting agencies as well. They get auto financing here, Visa card, MasterCard. And then we've added some sections here, personal guarantee accounts and non-reported trade accounts. And these were our partners requested these. And I'm glad they did, because our data team calls every one of these sources. I mean, thousands of sources our data team calls to verify and keep up with all this information. But the problem is we found a lot of great sources that either did require personal guarantees or don't report that we wanted to make available. So Backflow Parts, for example, Arvis, I don't even know these two. These are two are brand new that have been newly added. UPS, Z Battery, these are all new ones I haven't seen as well. We love Funbox. We get credit lines from them. I didn't know O'Reilly Auto Parts was here, or USA Scientific. So all of these Myron Hacks, these are all new ones that even I'm not familiar with. Vistaprint, Seaton. I mean, guys, you can see how many sources. I mean, this isn't the largest place you've ever seen of business credit accounts, that I don't know what to say, because there's a lot of companies here that I know of, like Budget, and there's a lot of the ones like Betty Mills, I know, like Economy Office Supply, that I have no idea of. Okay, but again, what we've done here is really created the biggest database of places that will make decisions based on business credit, but even that don't report that. And I want to fill you in on a little secret. We're going to continue to do this, and we're going to start doing with this financing as well. Okay, so this is a big goal of ours, is we want to make sure that we are changing the industry a couple different ways. Okay, so there's one of the things that we're really doing to make a change here is that we're coming in and adding sources that don't report to the reporting agencies, but still use business credit to make lending decisions, because you still may want credit with a lot of these different sources. Okay, so that's why we add a lot of these on here. Now, Marie says, can we earn a commission off NAV, etc.? You can't through us, no. And to be honest with you guys, there's just no money to be made on those. That's why we've never set up like a sub-affiliate relationship with NAV. For one, it's almost impossible to do. We've tried. But to give you guys an idea, I think we pay NAV, I think, $10, and then I think we keep $14 for every single account we sign up with them. So we don't make, with all the partners and all the customers and all the people that we have using NAV, we make like less than single digits in the thousands off NAV. There's just no money to be made when you're selling something for 24 bucks. So you can't do that through us. We tried to get a sub relationship through NAV, it didn't work. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if you go to NAV directly if it's going to be worth it, because you make so little money that even us, where we have 1,000 people now using NAV, we make very little money off NAV because there's just not much money to be made. So hopefully that answers your question. And Daniel says a lot of new vendors. Yes, there definitely is a lot of them in here that we've added, and I can keep scrolling down, but I won't keep scrolling down. And let me see if I can get here and get this off my screen here. Let me see if I can get this off. Okay, so trying to get there, perfect. Okay, so then there is a lot of other ones that I told you about as well, which it really comes down to ones that do have a personal guarantee. And that was the thing. I mean, in our searches, we found plenty of them that did require a personal guarantee. And so we thought, well, heck, why not? I mean, let's add all that stuff in here as well, so people can see the accounts they can get, where they can get even more access to credit and financing. But in doing so, these do require a guarantee. And the nice thing about that is that they can see that places like Regions and PNC do require those. So I found that, that helps people as much as doesn't. So I get offers from, PNC all the time. Well, I'm going to want to know, am I giving a guarantee or not? by creating a separate, oh, KeyBank, I miss you, KeyBank. I love you and I miss you. KeyBank used to be one of the main MasterCards you could get without a guarantee. By adding them now to the guarantee list, we're basically telling people, hey, look, these now require a guarantee. And we felt that was very, very valuable information. So we wanted people to know you can still get accounts with these companies, but they're gonna, and a lot of them report to the business credit reporting agencies. So here's an example. PNC Bank reports to all three. Sam Ash reports to all three. KeyBank reports to all three. So these accounts absolutely will help you build business credit, but they require personal guarantees. So we wanted to make sure that anything associated with business credit is on here, whether it's a guarantee or not guarantee. And we really broke this down into different sections so people can clearly see what requires a guarantee, what doesn't, where they report to, sources that don't report but that use business credit for approval decisions, all those kind of things. So that's why I put it on here. You can see Capital One's on here, and we even say that they report to personal, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, AMD&B, something Capital One doesn't tell people, and they should. We put on there as well. Jonathan says, do you search the potential customers? Do you search the potential customer's business profile during a demonstration? You mentioned a link in the previous training. If so, what is the link? Here's what we do. We do a fundability consultation. If you missed this the other day, then I suggest you go back and watch our webinar on fundability, I think, or how to do our new sales presentation. And I give you access to our new sales process. And on that training, I give you the access to the actual sales process we now use. And if you go there, then you will find this link, creditsuite.com/reports. This just gives us a shortcut to Experian, Equifax, and DMB. So when we're doing a consultation with a customer, we search the Secretary of State records. So the first thing we do is we go to Secretary of State to see if the information they've given us matches with Secretary of State or not. We do a quick fundability check. Then we come in and we do an Experian, Equifax, and or DMB search for them. So we come in, we enter the company's name, we enter the store that state that they're in, and we do a search just to see if they have trade lines or if the reporting agencies know they exist. We can see here Credit Suite does exist. They know our exact address and they know we have trade lines. So we can tell a lot by this right now. We can say, hey, look, nothing showed up in our preliminary search, which means you're not even set up with the reporting agencies. Or we'll come in and we'll say, if there was no trade lines, which is a lot of the cases, we say, oh, you got problems on your hands because the reporting agencies know you exist. They have your name and your address. But the problem is they have no trade lines for you, which means there's a good chance they've given you a failing business credit score. So time is of the essence. You need to build that business credit. Or we tell them it looks like you've got some basic credit established here with the reporting agencies. But Jonathan, most of the time, either nothing shows up or this part shows up with no trade lines. And then in that case, we tell them, look, you have no credit, or the reporting agencies know you exist and you have no credit, so you're probably given a failing score. That's how we do that in that consultation. I told you where you can go back to get that information in that training that we did. And Daniel says, any new banks offering lines of credit that match what you deposit in your bank account? We have not found those, no, because those never worked well. They were called CD loans. And we used to really promote CD loans, and we stopped because they just didn't work. The bottom line is they said that they worked, that you could put this money in the bank account, and they would even say they would offer a line of credit against that, or they would match or they would report it. But we had so many customer complaints from that we eventually just stopped doing it, and we have not found reputable sources that have done that again. So quick look through the business credit builder. A lot going on in the financing space as well. Now we are updating this section. I can't even show you this because I don't have my fundability stuff in here. But I will tell you that on the fundability side, I haven't entered my information yet in this system I'm using as a demo. So as a result of that, I can't show you this. Actually, I probably can. Let me see if I could find a different way to get in here. But there's a lot of things we've done on the finance side of things as well. So one of the biggest changes is that we've now added a lot to do with peer-to-peer lending. Okay, you might not even know what peer-to-peer lending is, but it's very important. It's like the newest kind of financing out there. It's where people are basically buying, individual investors are now investing into privately owned businesses like they do publicly owned businesses. And it's all done through peer-to-peer lending. Okay, so that is something that is new to the financing space. And a lot of other financing options are still out there as well. So from business credit, or excuse me, from account receivable financing if they have account receivables or customers that owe them money, purchase order financing if they're trying to get financing against purchase orders. I found this in another system here. Equipment financing, equipment leasing, equipment sale, leaseback. They can borrow against equipment that they already own. They can get financing and leasing to get equipment. They can also get specialized financing to put graphic wraps on vehicle. That's available through this section as well. Unsecured business financing. This is where they could have a 650 credit score and get multiple credit lines and get 0% rates. If they have a 680 credit score or higher, there's a good chance they can qualify for the same thing, but the accounts report to the business credit reporting agencies. They're getting 3 to 5 accounts that report to the business credit reporting agencies, 0% rate. Some new changes with that program. They can now come in and they can get cash out on that program. So they can get those credit lines and get cash out, still paying 0% rates, which is good. And some of our providers are now offering loans to pay down balances. So if somebody's utilization's 40% and needs to be 30, well, these sources will loan them the money to pay down the 10% to get utilization in line. We'll then get them the financing, and they use the financing to pay back the loan they got. Some additions and new additions to unsecured financing. Revenue lending, okay, the same. We're looking at the deposits in their bank account and getting them financing, but we're using a lot of artificial intelligence now. So some of our new sources, we don't even require bank statements from the customer. We'll plug right into the bank account from the actual customer, and then as a result, get the information we need without the physical bank statements. Term loans are in here. Peer-to-peer lending is the newest addition in here as well. And again, we're adding these different independent sections, but peer-to-peer lending is big on there. Term loans is big on there. 401k, stocks, bonds, IRAs, they can borrow against those to get financing. Commercial real estate purchase or refinance against. Right now, we are refinancing, or we are getting people financing that want to buy the commercial real estate that they're currently in, okay? So that, again, it becomes very, very, very important. So it becomes really important to be able to buy. I mean, they can literally come in, they can get a loan through SBA, through our programs, to buy the property they're leasing, keep their payment the same as their lease payment, and do it with no money down. So a really good way to go with commercial real estate financing as well, private equity financing as well, account receivable, purchase order financing. So we've got some we haven't really listed here that fall into the revenue category, such as term loans, such as peer-to-peer lending, some new big additions on top of some of our old classics as well. And then don't forget that they can always check the valuation of their business through Biz Equity, and they can come in and use this free valuation calculator to type in, not a little bit, but a lot of information here. And then from this, they can actually come in and they can find out how much their business is worth without paying for an actual business valuation. So they can come through here, enter this information about their income, their assets, their liabilities, and they can get all kinds of information about their business as well. So I don't know, I'm not going to probably show you all this because 2011, number of employees 80, and because I'm not going to progress enough through these steps. Why don't you like that? What's that saying? Why is that highlighted? Inception year 2011. Okay, and then I'll put Florida here. But again, I'm probably not going to progress enough through here to get it. But you can see as we start entering figures in here, it will start giving them a valuation. So again, as they enter more information in here, they're able to get a realistic idea of what their business is worth. And Biz Equity is one of the leading business evaluation companies that's really out there. So that's another cool add-on. And you could spend $1,000 to $3,000 just to get a business valuation, but that's part of this for your customers as well. And that's not a new addition, but it's something you always want to show when you're doing a demo presentation. I personally, before I do a demo, I have this pulled up, and then I just show them how they can change things here. And when they enter their information in, I show them that, they can actually get a realistic idea of valuations, and that number will change based on in real time as they're entering their data. So pretty cool, but that's a walkthrough of the finance suite as we know it. Now, some big changes since last time, including LexisNexis, including ChexSystems, including their ability to get the business identification number. There's got to be at least 60 to 100 new sources since last time I've done a demo, so a lot of that available too. Adding the stuff that actually does report but that does report, but that requires a personal guarantee. Adding other stuff that doesn't report, but can still be obtained based on business credit. Some of the many additions that we have. Okay. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. If you have any other questions, go ahead and type them in. Remember, we've also added these sections up here where you can just simply contact us and get in touch with all of your team right here. Now, of course, your customers don't have partner success or billing. They only have advising and finance, but you can easily come in here and access partner success, advising, billing, finance. All those contact informations are right there if you have information or questions beyond what you have time to go through and enter here today. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. If you have any other questions, type them in. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of a lot of the changes and the newest version of our finance suite. A lot of stuff to come and changes here in 2020. A lot more fundability stuff we're going to be adding in step 1. Okay, we're going to be adding a lot more, about 50 more, 45 more, because the goal is 50 by June. 45 more business credit vendors and sources here. We're going to have that LexisNexis rollout with the LexisNexis and the fundability score integration. So a lot of those things in the months to come, and we'll keep you informed of some of the other cool additions coming in as well. So I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks, everybody. If you have any questions, reach out to your partner success team by just emailing info@support@creditsuite.com. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.